Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Ascension Messages. My name is Bobbie Richardson. We have a beautiful guest. He is a good friend of mine from Ohio, the other side of the world. His name is Steve Alison. Anyways, he's someone that I chat to often, and whenever we chat, we have the most incredible conversations. It's like we ping pong off each other, and it allows the channelings to come through me. So this isn't just going to be a conversation between me and Steve. This is going to be a conversation between me, Steve, and higher benevolent beings that are pouring through me. And they have a very strong, powerful message for humanity at the moment. So it's really exciting what's coming out of this. I was going to bring up what we brought up yesterday about seeing our reality as the game box, so to speak. Like I always picture in my head an arcade game in front of me, and then the program that's run is the program of the cabal and blah blah blah. That's run over. The natural program, so almost like a little virus put into the program, so to speak, but we think it's the real program, trickster program. Interesting. Anyway, and then looking at the arcade game and seeing these, two sides competing against each other, constantly competing against each other, and they're always bring it to the inside, like that logical and intuitive competing against each other. That's that horrid program. And then to be able to get out of that, we have to become the programmer, the observer of that program. And I'm like, they're taking me to pulling the plug out of the wall, which is really interesting, and resetting. Oh, wonder if we're going to go through a huge reset of taking the plug out of the wall. The other thing that they kept bringing up with me recently is the reset that's going to be happening, because we were talking about this yesterday. It's ignited some things in me, our chat. I'm going to put this on a view for gallery too. It's ignited me for a chat of the fact that the reset is literally us coming back to source energy, which means we have to come back to ourselves as just pure essence of love for all of ourselves and everything out. That and everything is then outside ourselves is just pure love. That when you come back to that pivotal point within yourself, and I think everyone's going to take this journey in different moments of their life and different divine timings, although it is all synchronized together in this essence, or the self of source energy is creating this. But time is an illusion, right? And so we all feel like we're on these different adventures going in different timings, but it is actually going to collaborate into one big ball of just self-love for everything within ourselves and our journey. That's how it feels like. And then when you get to that point, you can reset the game, plug it back in, and reprogram it. And like we were talking about that door that was opening up, and then walking through a new door outside of the old program. We're no longer attached to the fighting game. We realize that the only way to step into this new reality is to trust our intuition, our imagination, take the reins to that, and our logical side again. It's blown my mind since our conversation yesterday. Sorry, Steve, you haven't even said a word.
Oh, you're right. I mean, like we said, is like we are the storyteller. We are the creator of the story, and you're the creator of your story. So but our stories intertwine with one another, and but we get caught up in the story. And something that's really come to me over the past couple of days is we've lost honor and respect for not only our story and of course everybody else's story. So then the story is lost intensity because we don't have honor or respect of anything in life or anything else. And so it's like it'd be like reading a book that's just like,
Yeah.
So we have not allowed our stories. We've lost the honor and the ceremony and everything else of our story. So we don't appreciate it, and we don't have that candor and that creative juice, because it's not important. We've lost that importance to it, and it's you have to have that's that emotion. That's the emotional creative force, is the importance of the story.
It's so true. It's the essence of everything. And it reminds me when I did a vision quest where I wasn't allowed to eat and everything. I went on a journey, ended up going through into a portal, into another reality, another frequency in this journey. And I was on a river, and the river had a bridge, and then there was these fish that were coming through down the river, and they were dead. And that to me represents the stories that are coming through our mind. They are going to die. Every story that we had of the past is no longer valid for the evolution of our consciousness, of our awareness that's coming into play. We're literally stepping into a new awareness. I believe everything is, like, even the animals are starting to step into more observational awareness. Like, we have buttons now for our cats to be able to communicate with us, and they tap on the button and like, we're literally starting to, I can see it in animals' eyes. Not all of them, but there's certain ones that I've noticed they've just got this spark of awareness. I saw a bird yesterday just look at me as I went into the lift to go down onto the station, and it stayed there. It was in the middle of, I don't know, there's just this concrete blimmin', and it was just sitting on the ground feeling very comfortable, and it was looking at me like it had an awareness of what was going on, that I was stepping into a lift. And I'm like, well, animals are becoming more, there's this new energy that's coming towards us, and it's sparking us into a new awareness that the old program, the old story isn't relevant anymore. It doesn't matter what they throw at us. It doesn't matter what they do, what they bring up anymore. It's just not valid for the evolutional process of stepping into this new frequency that's always resided on Earth. We just haven't had the expansion of ourselves to be able to tap into it, communication telepathically with everything and so forth. Expansion is huge. So I thought we could touch on extraterrestrials and the plan of agendas as well, because that would be a fun conversation to have. I have a lot to say on that.
I mean, so just like everything else, you have the lower vibrational ETs and the higher vibrational. We could use the words nefarious or benevolent or whatever. I mean, but I don't like using the labels, but just to know what ones I'm talking about. You have the grays that they talk about. The certain bunch of grays are supposedly the higher intelligence of ones, and they think they actually created humanity. And I'm just referring to the stuff I've researched and learned about. And then you've got the other group. You've got another group over here that thinks they created humanity, and each one of them thinks they know the best way for humanity to to evolve or whatever. Some of them thinks they need the control structure to make them evolve. And then there's the other ones that says, no, they need to evolve naturally. So you can tie that in with what's going here on Earth right now. You have the one group that wants to use AI or a controlled structure to force people to do certain things. And then no, the natural path. I mean, it just fractals down and fractals out throughout. But yes, you've got the good ETs per se, or the bad ETs. But even the ones that we think are bad, they think they're still good. So I mean, there is no good or bad. It's just the observer's perception of it. Whether we want that or we don't want that.
I'm starting to come to realize, like, the extraterrestrials outside of us, it is so freaking vast, but there's a lot that were created by others that are drone-like. There's those that were the creators, and they were even confused about the story sometimes because they didn't realize on Earth that Earth could have so much diversity carried on Earth itself, that there was other interactions. Now, it gets kind of confusing because even in our level of structure of presidencies and stuff like that, they get told one story, right? Like the actual truth of what's really happening cannot be discovered by one person alone, and it cannot be discovered on this planet in this time of not untrusting ourselves. So first of all, we have to take the trust back of who we are. Do you trust you and your own intuition and your guidance system to your soul? Then you start to explore out from that. That's going straight to the essence of truth, because you're coming from the inside out of trusting who you are. And I found recently that there is so many layers in the story that presidency might have one layer of the story, but only a fraction. Some of it's true, some of it's not. To try to get them into pulling into what the agenda is of the ones that are in control of us. And then they would have their own perception of the truth of how they're trying to control humanity. But then you have the benevolence that know another truth that's beyond them, but that the ones that are controlling humanity feel like theirs is the only truth. The ones that are of creator benevolence, they observe from above them, and they go, well, that means that humanity is ready for this story now, and so we'll allow the ones in charge or controlling them to shoot themselves in their foot. So it's just all sorts of different stories integrating into each other. That's what I've picked up on. So you have all these different beings, all different stories. Now, that's why I'm saying when you come back to love and right to your essence of who you are, it's like a collaboration of, it pings all of those beings that have their story, thinking that they're the truth, the only truth, into realization there's more expansion out from behind, outside them, and then their story ends up unfolding into, now I see the bigger picture, why I went through, why I did that, and led humanity to finding themselves. We put humanity into lockdown for a reason, because they're too powerful for their own frigging good, and we didn't understand the power of that, and that was already taken into account by the essence of the prime creator to do that to humanity. So there's all this other juicy stuff that comes out. But I do know with the extraterrestrials, there's a lot of clones upon clones. There's a lot of robots, AIs, all sorts of fractions of different ones. It all comes down to the essence of you. If you trust yourself, you have no fear, because you're standing in support of who you are, of whoever's facing you, of I trust your agenda that matches my vibration in this moment, to be able to step forward with your story and take what I need out of it. You're always got to come back to that essence.
You're exactly right. Let me get my whiteboard now.
Love it, Steve.
And I'm not a good artist at all. But you understand. So what you were just talking about, all the stories and everything that are coming back together with love is true. And everything, all these events, all these lies and truths and deceptions and everything that we're experiencing, that humanity's experience, everybody's experienced their own little version pretty much, but we're all having those things. So what you just said and what we were just talking about. So you could, well, how am I going to do this? Okay. So that's my version of a tree right here. So just like you said, so you got all these stories, as consciousness goes out and expands out into the multiverse to take it goes out to grasp all the stories, then it brings it back into itself, into the roots, and it feeds the tree, and then it goes back out to the tree. I mean, it's actually
the leaves drop onto the ground, so it forms that full circle coming back round.
Yeah. And so this right here is a tortle field or torus field. And so that's the same thing. This is just the scientific, energetic version of it. But if each one of these branches you could equate to an event, a storyline of all the sentient beings in the universe. Because what's happening here on Earth is going on out in the cosmos as well. All those storylines, and this is that epic, consciousness, the infinite God, however you want to say it, has expanded itself out, and it's bringing itself back into truth, to that oneness.
That's right. That's what we're doing. Literally everything is coming back into that oneness again, because it wants to create something new. And so we have to come back to oneness to refresh ourselves into love.
And feed the roots. Feed the roots of the tree. And then it expands back out itself. And so I'm going to say it's everywhere. It's all throughout creation. What do we do when we breathe?
Yeah,
we're expanding and contracting.
Our food goes in and our food goes out, and then it goes on to the planet, and then it grows a tree, and then we come back. And the same thing happened. This guy, I wish I could remember his name. He did these beautiful homes. He created homes where that was created into the home, where he had plants living in the home that gave food, that also, and on the manure went into the plants or the food, but it was kind of like a closed off area for us to live in. And then we had the environment controlled by, like, the temperature, controlled by the breathing of the plants and so forth, and it was perfectly in line with the sun. See, if we do everything with that same pattern, it ends up working very well with Mother Nature, with Gaia, because that is the pattern, the essence of love, of source energy. So even when it comes to the reflection of us looking outside ourselves to the extraterrestrials and all of those beings, in the end, their story was valid for the adventure that we've just gone on. We're starting to piece together all these different scenarios. We're no longer locked down. See, humanity was put into lockdown for a purpose, because every other planet could have the freedom to explore other planets and other beings and all that sort of stuff, but not humanity, because we were very young and naive within ourselves. So we are going through a massive shift of not only coming out of lockdown, but also coming back to source energy, into love itself. And that's that reflection.
And just to equate this, to use an analogy here, humanity would be like a new bud on the tree to start branching out.
Yeah.
Humanity is because we're
We were
birthing
in
that
a closed bud like that. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, I'm a flower and I'm falling and I'm in the tree. And I realize I am the tree. Oh my God, I'm the tree. You know, that's the feeling that we're going to come to. It's kind of like going on a massive acid trip. But the whole of us are doing it because we have to come back to, and that's why we're shedding all the programs where we're not loving ourselves. We have to come back to love. What aren't you loving about yourself? That is constantly the shadow work that, you know, spiritual people are doing, or just if you're not spiritual, you'll start to find this coming back at you over and over, the same story, and slapped in the face until you get it. Where are you not loving yourself? Because it has to come back to that point, self-reference of self-love. And then you recognize that you are part of a bigger picture, because you're expanded from when you only come from love. You start to see the world as love. Love starts reflecting back to you. You start ending up collaborating with your soul tribe, the family members that you're really in clue with. They start sharing their wisdom. You become more expansive. And so it goes. You end up realizing you're part of a massive picture here. And it's like you're becoming the observer of the observer of the observer. So every time you go into a story and it's all to do with fighting, you're still in the program. You're still in that friggin' program, because anything to do with fighting is the program that was put over you, that you're not magnificent, you're not love.
Yeah, the fighting just creates resistance, creates the resistance in the body to not allow the natural energy, the higher vibrating energy that's our natural being, that the fear and the hatred and everything else creates a lower vibration. So then it's just like a light switch for an electrical circuit. You're shutting that, you're just closing that off. You're creating resistance. You're not allowing it to happen. So yeah, and the controllers, they know all this, and they're playing their little game and playing our little game, and it's all part of life. It's part of the story. So what story do you want to experience? And
because fear, they've actually measured fear as a very low wave like that. Love was like this. So love hits way more points in your DNA. Like it hits all these different points as it spikes in that vibration. It's a quicker vibration. It brings you into a higher frequency of awareness. So the more separated you are from source energy in your own mind, the more lower you are in that fear-based scenario. The other thing they brought up with me is that people I know would say, oh, but how can you expect me to live in a love kind of a vibration? It actually happens naturally when you decide that's what you want to do. It naturally will happen. But if you think about it, we already do this. We already do it. We go out into the big wide world and we have certain expectations of humanity's behavior, so that, well, you wouldn't go around killing everybody, you know, because that means you're destroying your outside world. You become so separated from love itself that you want to consume everything around you, because you can't understand that you're not love within yourself. So you're consuming everything around you. They already do that in society. We have a level of awareness where we will reside to. All we're doing now is upping that level of awareness to a different reality of not accepting the mind thoughts of clouded judgment, guilt, and all of that. We just go, you know what? I don't need them anymore. Why would I want to play that game? That's just a game that's not conducive to where I want to go anyway. And it does naturally happen when you ask to be shown how to get to the reference point of loving yourself entirely. But that is the actual path. That's the path of you leading yourself into this next frequency. That is the adventure of that. So
yeah. And just like that, what I was saying a few minutes ago, we've lost that appreciation for our story. It's become mundane, and there's no honor, tradition, ceremony, or respect for ourselves. You got to do that here first, before you could share that with anyone else. And when you have those honor, respect, traditions, and ceremonies, not that your ceremony is the best one. That's where things got fucked up. Is because everybody thought their ceremony and everything else, their religion or whatever.
Compartmentalizing, isn't it? Because that is the old program of compartmentalizing, putting it into logic. If that works for that person, it has to work for me. And it doesn't necessarily, because you're on a different journey. You're on a different adventure. Yeah.
You honor and respect everyone else's, because I know my story. So, I know my tradition, my ceremony and everything else. But I want to know somebody else's. I don't want, the old programming was, if you're not in that box of that ceremony and all that other stuff, then you're wrong. Yeah. That's not true. You honor it like it's a new book, a new novel, a new story to appreciate and to love.
And there's the expansiveness of joining, and then you're expanding your story and your adventure, instead of limiting it to it has to be done this way or no way at all. And we can see it in all of the past and the religions and the schooling, and everything that we have ever done has been extremely logically limited so that it can be controlled. That's the only way that humanity thought that they could control themselves, is to have somebody outside them tell them how to control them, because they have lost the point or reference of trusting who they were.
In my mind, there has to be a limit as to what you honor and respect in other people's traditions. And I'm going to use a really bad example. You wouldn't want to abuse animals or children or anything else, just simply because that individual says, this is what I want, this is what I want to do, and this is my story. So,
but the thing is, it doesn't go that way when you're in a higher frequency, because you're already coming back to self-trust and self-love of who you are. And if that was the case, those people or beings will be in a lower frequency, just like we were on planet Earth locked down. They will be locked down in their own consciousness state of looking outside themselves constantly for a self-approval or self-realization, where in the higher vibrations, you are just coming from trust and love. You wouldn't want to, you recognize then, when you get to that point, you recognize that everything outside of you is you as well. Your body isn't the limit of who you are. Everything, every person, every animal, every building, everything, every earth, grass, whatever, is you as well. So you need to respect that just as much as you respect yourself.
So let me
they come and go in your reality, obviously, but you see them as part of like an arm or a leg. You wouldn't go hurting that.
Okay, let me use an example from why I brought it. Okay, so I've been driving by on my way home, and I see this individual who has this dog tied up on a short chain with no protection or anything else. Am I not supposed to stop and help? That's what weighs on my consciousness. I need to stop and rescue that dog, and not just pass by and say, well, that's that guy's story. He wants to abuse these dogs. So my point is,
that would have already come into your consciousness to begin with, for that to be in your reality, that your expectation of your outside world is going to have people like that in it, because there's something in your mind, in your story, that's expecting that in your outside world. So then if you come back to yourself and go, you know what, I'm not going to expect that in my story anymore. People are going to become more aware, because it's kind of like if you were a guru, right? If you were so cool, and I know that gurus have done this. I don't know what else to call them. People who are already enlightened, they could walk up to someone and just pass them, and it wakes them up, because they are that powerful in who they are in the essence, that person next to them, as they walk past, would just start crying as to the misconduct that they've done to the dog, which is in reflection of their own misconduct that they've done to themselves and trying to control who they are. So it's like that guru will walk past and hold that vibration of who you are. You don't have to even interact. You just have to be present, and you have to accept. I hate the word have to, but I constantly say it as it have to. It shouldn't be that word though. It is an acceptance of your reality. See, when I come to the point of essence of love itself, I had to accept that everything was from me. It was my reality, because source energy is just that, creation itself. And we have divine essence of source energy, who's just powerful, magnificent, just love, right? All within us. Then when we see outside of ourselves some sort of misconduct, something that's not happening, that's right, if we don't look in ourselves of an expectation of that was happening, and that we don't know, we're out of control of how to handle it, then we're out of control of ourselves of how to handle it. But if you walk up as a guru and you already have the point of view that you are love essence itself, and that everything outside is going to wake up, then and see it within themselves, then that's what you will affect. You will affect those people like that. That's the light workers coming to a really massive awakening though within themselves, of recognizing that they are just the essence of love. That's where we're going. I mean, there is a process that happens, because if you walked up to that man with that dog and you got frustrated because you didn't know how to handle it, because do I go up? Do I tell him off? Am I getting into his story? You're already not in control. Do you understand that? You're already not in control.
Yeah, I get it. You got it. Yes, but I don't know. I'm like, you have to have action to create change. And this is just where I'm at. And like I was saying before, we're overlapping with realities. And I guess I answered my own question. I'm trying to change their reality, but what I'm seeing is an innocent being, an animal that is being mistreated, and I need to change that. I could care less about the owner. I don't. There
is already a collaboration between the animal and the owner for that to have existed, for the lesson of the animal and the owner. It's like if you would never go up to a praying mantis and start telling it off for chopping the head off the male praying mantis after it had sex, which they do naturally. They just naturally do that. We just go, that's natural. We have an acceptance of it. But it's kind of like coming from an observer point of view of recognizing there's different levels of awareness, that it's not your place to change anything outside of you. It's your place to change everything within you, and then recognize where you're feeling lack of, out of control. That's the only thing that you can control, the only thing that people have been taught that they can control outside themselves. You know what? They tried to control cancer. What happened? It exploded bigger. Why? Because we're focused in on it. And then it ended up becoming more of a problem. Whatever we try to control outside of ourselves becomes bigger. And so we're actually fueling the problem instead of going inside. Where am I lacking? Where am I not controlling within myself? and then stepping outside. See, as soon as I come into peace within myself, I did this all of yesterday through my whole car exploding and not exploding, actually, overheating. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't even steaming. It was just overheating. But when I was sitting there waiting for the tow truck to come, I was just in present moment enjoying the day. It didn't worry me about what if, oh my God, it's going to cost me a lot of money and all. None of that. I was just present. And then when the tow man came, his story was, oh, you're going to have a big bill. And what did he tell me? Oh my God, you're going to have a big bill, coming your way. And I just went, oh, yeah, okay. And I still felt this essence of, that's his story. It's not my story. I'm fine with this. I'm going to be supported. Some money is going to come my way. It's just the way it is. It either comes my way, I get a bill, it comes my way, or whatever. I'm not worried about it because I know I'm looked after. It was that self-support and not latching into someone else's story to try to fix the problem outside of myself. I could have turned around to that guy and said to him in that moment, oh, you're really thinking negatively. Let's think positively. I only want to think positively. And you're in this sort of knee-jerk reaction of a spiritual person trying to protect their essence of who they are. But even that is acknowledging the story of his truth and that you're trying to protect yourself because you feel powerless in yourself to have held your own story of conviction. It's incredible when you get into it.
And I agree with everything you say about within myself. I've done, and I don't care to brag, I'm bragging. I've done very well in, events coming, cars breaking down, money being stolen, whatever it is. And I'm like, no big deal. Because I feel in control of me. But when I see, and like you're saying, it's something I need to ponder, is when I see something of innocence outside myself, like an animal or a child, I feel I need to help. I need to help them.
Yeah,
I need to help them.
Yeah, I'm not saying, because it's still the story is rolling, right? I'm not saying you walk away from someone who's been abused or an animal that's been abused. But I'm saying when you walk up to that, you stand in your power of who you are and conviction that you are love, and that person is not seeing that they are love. And that if you come from that point of view, they will become more aware of who they are instead of feeding into the story that they are controlling everything and you've got to somehow change the circumstance. There's a whole different way of thinking, of perceiving life when you come from self-love and self-support. I mean, if we get into that side of it where it becomes a hurt animal or whatever, our compassion wants to, a natural urge of humanity wants to protect it. But are we fueling the story even more? Because you could go up to that person really angry, right? And you could say to him, stop doing that. You're hurting that dog. That's horrible. You know what that person's going to do because he's coming from his lack and you've just fueled him with more lack of himself. He's going to go around the corner and really rip into that dog even more so. You've got no control of it. So you end up fueling the problem. This is what I mean by society and the way that it is knee-jerk responses to reality is coming from their own lack. And I see it in leadership and everything. It doesn't work. It's going to consume itself. And so that's why it's really important to recognize that we're coming from love, that we are source energy, that we are just love within ourselves. And that in itself is magnificent, that we hold that frequency whenever we step into interactions with anything that we do. We come from that support. I'm not entirely there. I'm telling you because I'm like channeling this information through as I'm going. I even will walk away from this and then get infused into a story every now and then. Yesterday was perfect. Yesterday I just rolled like, oh my God, this is how we're doing it. This is the perfectness of it, and how I'm allowing the interruptions of my life, of my car overheating, just be, and not be in it in a way, you know. I mean, if it was somebody that was being abused in front of me, I would look at myself as to, why am I bringing this story into me? That you are clearing all that abuse by holding yourself in love for yourself. It's interesting. We think it's the opposite way around, because that's what we've been programmed to do. But the more we come into self essence of who we are, the more we're actually clearing our reality for people like that to not exist in reality, because it's coming back to just self-love, and they start to click into why they're bringing me to a tribe. When a tribe over in Africa in the old days, if someone did something wrong and abused someone or anything like that, they would surround that member and just tell them what they were, how beautiful they were, how magnificent they were, how much they are loved, because the person in the center has forgotten that they were magnificent and that it was source energy, they were love. So they need someone to tell them and remind them. That person would break down and cry in the realization of how separated they came from the true essence of who they are. So a lot of us are going through the shadow work of breaking down and crying as we start to peel away our layers and realize the true essence of lack that we've forgotten of within ourselves. Yeah, they're really pouring through me at the moment, Steve. Sorry. I'm going to go away from this and rewatch it and go, wow.
I agree, and I ponder these things all the time, and you see how, I mean, we truly are traveling through different storylines as our vibration goes up, of neutrality, being neutral. Man, that's a tough one. That because to be completely neutral, there is no passion or honor or respect. And you have to have. I'm going back. Those are the words that keep coming to me. You know, that's how you. Because we want our story. We love our story. That's what life is, to have the story. So you can't have complete neutrality and not have life. You've got to honor and respect and love your story. But that neutrality part that we're coming to is honor and respecting that our story is just as valid as anyone else's. And that's tough. That's the tough part of it.
Well, it's not that at this point in the evolution of humanity, we're coming to the point of just love in itself so that we can create a new story. So what I'm explaining now is us coming back to the essence of just love. So you saying that, you know, someone's abusing a dog, then how do I approach that? I'm explaining to you how to come back to the essence of self-support, of love of who you are, and the realization that you're creator of everything, right? That in itself is one thing. But then source energy, or us, and the vibration of being split into different avatars and bodies and animals and all sorts of ETs and everything. We go on another journey of going around the torus, and we create something completely new. So what do we want to create? We want to be able to bring in the story that you're talking about, of having the adventure. We still have some highs and lows. We still have all of that, but we're coming into realization that we're collectively bringing in our soul as source energy, as well as collaborating that with the story. And so we're creating a whole brand new journey for ourselves. What is it that you What is it that you feel you self-deserve, you self-want? What kind of adventure do you want to go on? You know, all of it is relevant. Everything consumes itself and comes back anyway. The trees will die and earth consumes it. So earth's a consumer as well as a creator. Everything is that. So it's collaboration of both that we're coming into this whole new, what do we want to create, with the knowledge that both consumer and creator is valid in going into this new story. Yeah, I was just before, it was more to do with, I think they were trying to explain to you how to come back to the essence of love of who you are, because you can't change the story until you come back to completely loving who you are in respect of the story and accepting it as one. Then you can go, I accept everything as the story of source energy creation. In itself, every negative, positive, beautiful, not so beautiful thing as just is, and no longer attaching to the story. I become observer of it. Now, because I'm the observer of it, I can use that power within me to create a new story. And I am standing in sovereignty of power, that I am source energy. No government, no leadership, no nothing is beyond source energy. Nothing is beyond that. It is just source energy itself, existing in the avatar of your body, asking for you to create a brand new story.
Exactly. It's something that popped in my head here. And, humanity, the collective consciousness of humanity has been told its story throughout its, eons or however long. And virtually we've been slaves. Our consciousness has been enslaved. So I'm going to tie this back to a little bit of history that, when the slaves here in America or in other places, but more so here, when the African Americans were freed and the government told them they were free, you can do anything you want, but they stayed on the plantation. Most of them did. Most of them stayed on the plantation because they didn't know how to create their own life, their own story. So I'm equating this to the collective of humanity. Just like I said, for eons, our consciousness has been enslaved, and we're being told we can create our own life, our own story. And so we're working that out to find out what we want our story to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's so true. That's why they constantly say come back to loving who you are 100% before you start to create that new story, because it will fold in and you'll try bits and pieces as you go, but the essence of who you are, coming back to source energy love of who you are, is more important. Yeah, those people were also still in the vibration of being locked down or locked out of their soul's connection, of their right intuitive, imaginative side through the programming too. So all of a sudden they're just running from they're running as logic, and going, how do we create a new story? Logic on itself, and this has been scientifically proven by Dr. Ramachandran. It cannot create a new story. It just can't. It's not its job. It's its job to have this, create this reality as a separated version of ourselves, so we don't put our finger through this, so that we have a program of actual interaction from a separated avatar. But it's not its job to create something brand new. That's the intuitive, imaginative's right hemisphere story. So these beings, these people that you're talking about, they were on a plantation, still running in the energy of not being locked, collectively linked into their soul and to their imagination, and trusting their intuition and trusting their imagination to create a new story. They were still in the locked down version of just coming from logic, which meant that they couldn't create they were only looking outside themselves to create. Who here is going to help me create something? Because I'm looking outside myself, because I have no inner log of soul essence, the observer, showing my path through my heart of what I can create, and accepting that as a reality. We've forgotten how to accept our imagination as a reality. Our imagination has been held hostage by these other beings that have been governing humanity, and they have been playing this. I literally see their game of like a massive weave of spider webs, just lies and deception covering everything into a cocoon, and cocooned humanity into this place of, we can't move unless someone tells us to. You know, what's the next law? What's the next rule? What's the next? Otherwise, I'm not in with everybody else, and I don't trust who I am, and I don't trust you. That all of that is programming.
Yeah, and the whole outer savior come save me mentality. That, and you're exactly right. You know, globally, on a global scale, is people are looking for that person to step up.
Yes.
Okay, but my point was just to we got to stop looking for that person to come save us. But
yes,
here's the other thing. You know, there's always that other hand. Everybody's looking for someone. Somebody can stay. If someone who's not so much an ego could stand up enough to be a leader to people, to realize they're their own leader. That's what the problem's been with throughout the spiritual communities. The guru is, you know, they step up and they have good intentions at first, but you know, and they have all these people, these that start following them, and they're starting to feed off that energy. And then that message of had gotten lost, so that each conscious observer is their own savior. But still, yet, to me, there has to be people to stand up with integrity to say, and many have. If you look across the globe, you know, the ones who stood up and saying, no, I'm not going to do blah blah blah, or I'm not going to do this. You know, those people have been leaders and this and that. So, but and you're right, 100%. The savior is within all of us, and you can tie that in with Christianity. Has always said it, you know, that be like Jesus. Jesus is in you, and all that, and that's 100% true. The Christos, the Christ, is within all of us. But we've always looked, and so many Christians today are waiting for Jesus to come on a cloud. No, he's not coming. He's not coming. He's waiting on you to get off your ass and do it yourself.
Well, who you are, yeah. Well, when they were talking, they were taking me to, and they said, go to another planet. Like if we go to another planet in our imagination right here, right now, and that planet is only of benevolent beings, right? Now, every planet that's out there has specific programmings and so forth within the avatars of the beings that are on there. But if we take, for example, say a Pleiadian consciousness of higher frequency, that maybe where, you know, humanity can go, because they're like distant cousins and they're more, you know, easily accepted by humanity's consciousness. Say we go to a planet, I don't know, let's name it, I don't know, I'm just going to name a planet, Vesta, you know, just make it one up in my head, Vesta, of Pleiadian, you know, around the Maya star system or something like that. And on that planet is benevolent beings that are living in harmony within their own structure, of their own, you know, with their own rules and everything. Now, if you go there, you will find that each of those beings has a sovereign link to their soul, connection to source energy, to love, and they have a sort of a programmable story of the collective that resides on that planet. But each vessel, each person has a essence of truth within themselves, that they are source energy. So that means there is only trust. There is only trust because they are reflected back with each other, of knowing that each other is coming from source energy, and the adventure that they're going to create, they're only coming from the point of existing in creation. So in creating something new. So that's how they don't have a hierarchy of people, and they don't have a system of, there might be on that planet guides that would be linked in even more specifically to source energy as where's the next program going to bleed out into the consciousness of all the people. And they might be literally, they're showing me really weirdly, they're showing me beings in pods of water that are connected with their self as source energy, and then pulling that through into the consciousness of those that are on the planet. Everything is a different experience. So every planet's a different experience. Everything is different because it's the adventure that source energy wants to experience through each of these different planets. I'm trying to give you a perspective of what another planet would be like if it didn't have the hierarchy of someone looking outside themselves for the truth. Each person that comes in is collectively tuned into each other. They're telepathically, connectively tuned in. This is where we're going as a humanity. When I was connected to the elder, a Cherokee elder, telepathically, it was through love. It was only through love that we could connect. So we ended up sharing a story with each other, and a knowing of that story was shared, and it was only through love. So there's no deception, there's no lies, there's no needing, there wouldn't be somebody who was abusing on purpose someone outside themselves in that reality on that planet, because it just wouldn't happen. It's just because you are hurting yourself, and you're hurting yourself. And you would end up it'll almost be like losing consciousness of who you are, because humanity in its essence has lost consciousness of who they are. They're literally insane, going around, in an insane kind of not stable within themselves. And so looking outside themselves. And even the elder that I work with said, "You're all insane." One of the first things she said, "You're all insane." We're all going, "What? We're all insane?" Now I understand, because it was complete out of balance and only searching outside ourselves for something. So yeah, it's interesting. I want to take me to a planet where to share with you there is other alternate ways of existing. That's why we're wanting to open that door into that golden light that we were talking about yesterday, Steve, with that, what do you want to create here? But you could create as adventurous story as you want. You could have the highs and lows. You can have all of that. There's nothing stopping. Source energy wants to experience highs and lows, right? But it's how you interact with them. Are you going to constantly blame everything outside yourself for that, and have leadership that you can blame because you've never taken back the power of you being source energy, being love and supporting who you are? Yeah.
And what blows my mind, if you look throughout creation, and just like I drawed with the tree and the toroidal field and everything else, and you could see it in the human hand right here. I'm source energy. I have everything right now. I expand out. Imagine each finger being a separate consciousness, and then it comes back to itself. Expanded out to experience the multiverse, and then bring the knowledge back. Each finger is a consciousness, and it all comes back. I mean, it's even in the human hand, and you could see it in the petals of a flower. You could see it in the hairs on our head. Well, you can't see it on but, you know what I mean? If a person would stop and look, you see it in trees, you see it in everything, and it's expand it out and back. There's always that root of it all, and it fractals out into to source itself. Yeah, you know, that wholeness that go out. You know, in you could tie it into biblical phrases. How's it say? Go out into the world and bring all good things back to me. I butchered that phrase from the Bible, but that's what it says. It's go out into the world and bring all good things back to me. You're going out. But all things are good is the thing. That's the key. All things are good.
Yeah, when I was in that essence, it was like just it was more acceptance. That's what it was. I just accepted everything because I was coming from love from who I was in that moment of feeling source energy. So I was going for a walk at that time and looking at outside at the power lines and everything, going, oh my God, I've created all of this. This is all I created everything, because I'm coming from the observational point of love only itself, source energy. So I realized I was creator because that's the perspective I was coming from. And then next to me was my partner. And then behind us was a child in a pushchair that was crying and crying and crying. And I'm like, I accept that. I just accept it. Wow. It is what it is. And I could actually see that child crying in my partner. My partner was crying, and that was the reflection of him. And then I was crying because of that. And it was just all interactive. It was just that's the essence of where we're going.
And everything you say, and I'm using the analogy of the hand. You was one observer, the child, the partner, and each one of you was observing whatever the same story per se, but each one of you had the different observation, and each one of you was feeding back to source itself.
Yes. Yeah. So it does depend on what perspective you're coming from. The more you love yourself, the more you are integrated with source energy, and you can become the observer of everything as self-acceptance and just letting the story happen, because at some part of source energy who you are wanted to experience being the perpetrator or being the victim for a while, to experience coming out of it. Everything is just self-acceptance then. Yeah, it really just comes back to love of who you are and support of who you are. What a friggin' wow, Steve. It's getting darker and darker there, and it's getting lighter and lighter here because we're on opposite sides of the world. And we've been for nearly an hour and a half.
The yin and the yang.
The
yin and the yang.
The yin and the yang, yeah. I started off darker and it's gone. Interesting.
It's every flipping where. It blows my mind. That's when life becomes magic, is when you could start seeing all the things we're talking, the expansions, the patterns of life and everything, and how they're all how they're all connected, but they're all connected in infinitely diverse ways. That's the magnificence of it.
Yes.
It's just learning each pattern.
Like I know my dad constantly comes to me and goes, well, your life would be boring because there'd be no fun, rah, rah, rah. I'm like, oh my God, you no idea how not boring it will be once we expand. Way more like we end up expanding into interaction with consciousnesses that are so amazing. All the animals, the plant life, we are able to, and I've experienced, like my guys have taken me to these places throughout the years, experience, and they constantly bring this up, this like training ground of being on this lawn and being able to shoot light out of your hand and make like holographic patterns in front of you of structures, of little structures. And it was like training ground of being able to create your reality. It was just so much more expansiveness, adventure. We can create our own adventures. We could say that there's certain stones that we have to find on the planet, and there's only like 10 of them in the whole planet. And once we bring them all together, the collectiveness ends up opening a new door into expansion. And they each have a vibrational sound, and you can only tell because when you pick them up, they're singing, all sorts of different our imagination is the key, and it is so expansive. But we have to be able to bring in our reel in our emotions, to be able to use our emotions weave them into the story, not be using them to fight against the story, to try to hold the story at a certain limitation. That's what we've been doing. That's why our emotions have been so repressed. Our fire in our heart has been repressed by our anger, because we're not feeling strong within ourselves. So we attack things outside of ourselves and so forth, and create problems and drama. But once we start to see that fire is actually our passion that we can use to direct us into creating something amazing, we are unlimited in our expression of who we are. It's incredible where humanity can go to next. We just need to come back to self-support first.
Yeah. And we're getting there, slow but sure. I mean, we're all getting there in our own way, and that's where the things I've struggled, and many of us have, that if I see somebody about to run in front of a car, I want to stop them from running in front of the car. I'm using that as an analogy to a scenario, but we've got to allow that
in the story you don't become the hero and help that person. But it's coming from a place of you know who you are, rather than, oh God, that driver's an asshole, he didn't see him, the shooting down and just attacking everything outside you because your reality is not right for what you're expecting. It's a different feeling that you're going towards that person with. You're coming from self-support of who you are. It's different.
Yeah, and we just got to allow things to unfold naturally. But when we have that passion and that desire to help, we need to do that. And you're right, because that's part of the story. You're 100%.
We just whenever we're coming from anger, guilt, all those lower kind of separated from ourselves, we don't feel empowered at all by any of those feelings, then we have to look at ourselves. Why am I not feeling empowered at this moment? What is there that's blocking me from empowerment for myself? So that's where you turn it around. So it's not so much the story that we're trying to control into just being neutral and boring. That would be terrible, right? We're not doing that. We're seeing where we're attacking our world. We're literally being in this whole reality that we've just gone through. Humanity has been attacking everything because they've come from their own lack, and so they try to control everything outside themselves. When we come from love, we're going to create something totally different, and we'll start shifting everybody else around us. We'll wake up other people because we are coming from the essence of source energy and standing in our true sovereignty of power. If someone comes up to me and says, you are to do this, I just go, you have no authority over me. Source energy, I'm source energy. You're source energy too, but you have no authority over me. I know my power is more than yours at this moment because I'm coming from love of who I am. You know what? Whatever happens next, it will be that won't truly exist. I've had this happen when I was attacked by a lower frequency being that wanted to control me. And when this was in another, because I could see into other different into different frequencies. This was a reptoid kind of reptilian that was attacking me, when he did it, the only thing that saved me was nothing of me attacking him, was nothing of me having a gun to fire at him, was nothing of that. It was nothing like that. The only thing that saved me was, I remember when he put his arm around me to try to shove these pills in my mouth, I remember in my mind, the first indication I had was, this isn't going to happen. This isn't how it happens. Not. In other words, I took my power back and said, I trust in myself and my power. But then in my mind, my logical mind's going, well, what's going to happen? And my right brain goes, I don't know how it's going to shift. I don't know. And it doesn't matter. It just is, because that's how I am. And he's not going to be controlling who I am. And then it's like all my chakras came together. So then the action happened. And a big ball of light just flew out between my sacral and my heart chakra, just went poof, like that. I saw it. And the being disappeared because I raised my frequency out of that I didn't know how I was going to do it. But what the moral of the story is to bring your power back to you. Someone can be standing there with a gun towards a little 3-year-old child that's an innocent child that's standing in the power of knowing who they are as the essence of who they are. You know what? That soldier will look into the eyes of that child and they just will not shoot him. I've done it before with partners that had tried to hit me. I've just stood there and I just fell to the ground and just went, not going to happen. And they could not hit me. They could not hit me. So they were like fired up, and you could see that it would absolutely have been a possibility in that moment, but they could not hit me. Why? Because I had my power. I knew who I was in that moment. And that's where I'm wanting everybody to recognize how powerful they are, that they don't have to fight the program and get sucked into it as a victim to feel like they need to constantly fight it. You just stand in your power.
Yeah. Just stand up and say no more.
No more. That was an hour and a half. That was long. Thanks so much, Steve. And the thing is, I love the interaction that we have. For some reason, it just channels through more through me. So thank you so much for allowing them to come through and be part of this conversation and having that discussion, open discussion.
I always enjoy being able. I enjoy talking the deeper stuff because it only broadens each individual, whoever's in the discussion.
So thanks to everybody for being part of that. That was a beautiful, amazing conversation with benevolent beings coming through as well and sharing their advice. I just want to touch on a little bit more. There's something that's coming through about this planet. I don't know why, but they keep on bringing it up. I know that I just made up the name Vesta, but there could be a word there that's actual planet of theirs. Sometimes when names come through, I doubt them. My logical mind doubts them. But also, there's something else. There is no leadership on that planet, if you didn't realize that already. Everybody is sovereign in themselves and they are their own leaders. If somebody becomes more separated from themselves and starts to become imbalanced, they're telling me that they automatically go into lockdown for themselves until they've figured it out. Yes, yeah, that's what they're telling me. Okay, so that was some interesting point that needed to be brought up, and I think that's a reflection, a reason why humanity's put into lockdown, to come back to themselves as well. There is another story that they're bringing up. My daughter, when she was, my middle child, when she was about 6 years old, very calm, individual person, always coming from her own sovereignty. She was they used to put in extra ADHD kids in the classroom because she would literally chill them out. She could handle them. She didn't attach into their story. There was a time where she had somebody come up to her that was a bit younger, and they lied as to what happened. They blamed her for something that they had done, and Ayla, my daughter, was going to get into trouble, and she got extremely angry because it was unjustified that this person had lied. This little girl had lied. She's just a little girl, but had lied, and that the Ayla got in trouble for it. So she became extremely angry. And this wasn't my daughter at all. She didn't very often become angry at all. And so when that happened, it was really interesting to watch her. She went into her bedroom and she pulled out all of the books and all of her toys. And I just let her go for it. We had quite a big lounge, and she made a massive circle in the lounge of all of her books and her toys. She sat herself in the middle of that, and she said, "Don't come in this circle until I've sorted myself out." So now I understand that why she did that. That is a Pleiadian way of handling themselves when they have come out of balance from themselves. And they wanted me to bring that up so that you have an understanding of how you take your own power back and take responsibility for who you are. That means that there's no need for somebody looking outside yourself for confirmation or leadership anymore. It's just you, and you take that responsibility back yourself. So really good to have been part of this conversation. Love you guys. I enjoyed that heaps. I'm going to have to rewatch it myself and see what I said as well. Until next time, bye.